In today's show, we're going to talk Toronto Raptors, and in particular, their standout rookie, Scottie Barnes. It's all coming up. Stick around.
You are Locked On NBA, your daily NBA podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hey guys, and welcome to another episode of Locked On NBA. I'm your Monday host, Josh Lloyd. I also host the Locked On Fantasy Basketball channel, which you can find right here on YouTube. You can click the link down below to check out that as well. Now, we're going to talk some Scottie Barnes with the host of the Locked On Raptors podcast, Sean Woodley. Before we get that, this is a familiar problem. You got your sports, live sports you watch somewhere. You watch your highlights on your phone. You got your other shows that you watch somewhere else, and you got your neighbors log in for the other stuff. It's all over the place. It's clutter. It's confusion. Nobody wants that. Well, I want to tell you about a simple way to get all the entertainment you love without the hassle. A great way to finally get your TV together. It's called Direct TV Stream. And it brings your live TV and on-demand favorites together like never before, so you can watch your favorite sports, movies, and shows all in one place. That means no more juggling remotes and no need to buy another device ever again. And the best part, there's no annual contract. So get rid of the clutter and the confusion and get your TV together with DirecTV Stream. You can find out more at directtv.com. That's directtv.com. Compatible device required and content varies by package. Let's get in now to talk about the Toronto Raptors and their, exciting package out of the NBA draft. Sean Woodley from Locked On Raptors is here. Let's just start out. Is Scottie Barnes the best or second best player of all time?
I guess we could debate the best player of all time for a day, but it's Scottie Barnes. Like, we don't need to have any sort of nuance here. Scottie Barnes is the greatest player of all time. He's averaging like 18-9 for a team that is above 500, missing its best player. Actually, no, they're not missing their best player because Scottie Barnes is here and he's the best player of all time. So I just contradicted myself. But yeah, Scottie Barnes rocks. It's been a lot of fun to watch him, and it's been a pleasant surprise to see that he can score and that was kind of the big thing, right? Can Scottie Barnes score at any level? Apparently he can, and he could do so with wonderful efficiency.
We talked a few times in the preseason about the Raptors being underrated by the media. I believe I have to go back and check, but I'm pretty sure I had them in my playoffs when I did my playoff predictions, and people thought I was pretty crazy to have that. I had them going over their win projection, and I was pretty excited to see what they can do. But look, in all honesty, I did not like them picking Scottie Barnes at number 4. From what I saw from him at Florida State, the complete lack of any ability to shoot and score in a college environment and the unwillingness to score was something where I thought, I don't know how this is going to work. But the gigantic, it's been literally an unbelievable transformation to be from a guy who couldn't shoot, couldn't score, wouldn't shoot, wouldn't score, to just be a guy that would play it sort of off and pass. And now he's like, well, don't worry about passing. I'm just going to do it all myself. It has been and because his assist numbers are not high. He's averaging, 2 a game or 3 a game? Like, they're not high. I thought he'd be like, I'll get 5 or 6 assists and we'll average 7 points. And that can still be valuable. But how has he been? And he's not doing this, Sean, by coming out and shooting 50% from 3 that's going to regress. I think he's shooting 27% from 3 or something like that. But the complete change in his game and the willingness to take these pull-up jumpers has been unbelievably astonishing. And even the staunchest Raptors and Masai Ujiri supporters, and we trust Masai and all this, nobody could have expected this change in the way that he is approaching the game.
No, not at all. I think the big key with Scottie Barnes so far, I know the mid-range pull-ups are like the thing that's got everyone kind of going ooh and ah, and I certainly do that when he does that because it's like, holy crap, this is insane. At that game against, I think it was the Magic on Friday, where he goes for 19 in the first half. I think he hit like 4 or 5 pull-up mid-range jumpers, just probably more than you would have seen him hit in his entire college career at Florida State. That stuff's great, but what's really shocking about Scottie Barnes is how good he is finishing around the rim. Like, there's just no way to block his shot. He's so long. His arms are so long. He just finds the right angles. There was a possession last night when they played the Pacers where he kind of backed down Domantas Sabonis, who was obviously bigger than him, but he just kind of like found the proper angle to throw one up off the glass, and it just like landed in perfectly. It's just, he's got like a really good understanding of the angles. And it also helps that he is enormous. I know he's only listed at 6'9", but he feels like he's 7'3" out there with how much ground he covers, how big of a target he is as a pick and roll dive man as well. And I think finishing around the basket, I mean, you're just kind of be working out for if you're Scottie Barnes, right? Like, I think the 3-point shot will come at some point. The jumper obviously looks like it's a little bit more refined than it was in college. I don't know if he's ever going to be like a high volume guy necessarily, but he doesn't have to be when he scores, 60% around the rim. And that has given the Raptors just a huge boost because a lot of those baskets around the rim are coming on offensive boards as well. He's been killing the offensive glass. And for a team that has a rough half-court offense that is missing a ton of shots, having that long dude just kind of around there with a nose for the ball who can put it back up and in, it's been enormous. And it's been a big part of his game. And it's kind of, shocking that he's been doing this without kind of going outside the flow of the offense either. All of it's coming within the flow. And I guess the flow of the Raptors offense is long, drawn-out half-court possession, miss Scottie Barnes' offensive rebound, but it's working. And he's been huge in terms of just kind of making the Raptors have an advantage in the possession game basically every game.
We're going to talk about OG Anunoby in a second, but I guess the elephant in the room is the fact that Pascal Siakam hasn't played yet. Now, my initial, before the season started, estimation was, okay, Siakam will come back, Barnes will move to the bench, he'll play like a 29-minute sixth-man role, but at this point it feels impossible. But my question to you, Sean, is, for a guy that is playing as well as he is, the 25% outside shooting, if you have him, OG, and Siakam all starting, now whether that's with another center or not, like whether you're going to put Scottie or OG at the 2 and you still have Precious and Kem Birch at the 5, would Nurse be happy to play Siakam start him at the 5? Like, where does the spacing come from on an offense where you got Barnes, Siakam, OG? Like, OG's turned into a pretty good shooter, but he's not a complete long-range threat or guy that just stands exclusively out there like Gary Trent. How does that all work? Is there concerns that might get a bit squishy?
I think if they opt to keep Barnes in the starting lineup, there's a way it can work. And I think it's if they just play small. I know like Raptors fans have like ghosts in their head about what small ball looks like because of what happened last year. And the team was just obviously a mess. They're missing guys. Aaron Baines was terrible, all of that. But like, if you think about last year's Raptors team, their best moments came when they played small. They played this Lowry, Fred VanVleet, Norm Powell, OG Siakam lineup, which was super tiny and was really good. And that coincided with, I think it was a 15-7 run they went on after their 2-8 start that got them back to 500 before COVID hit and ruined their season. I think they could do something similar this year and play VanVleet, Trent, Anunoby, Siakam, and Barnes as your center, like kind of put him in the position where he can be your dive man. He can make plays from the middle of the floor in the short roll, which he's really good at, and he's got great vision and great patience there. We know he can finish on the dive as well. And I think Siakam, as much as he shot terribly from 3 last season, I think that was more aberration than anything. He was a 36-37% guy the couple years before. I think that should come back, in some way here. Maybe he's not going to be the sort of above the break bombing dude like he was in 2019-20, but I think there's a happy medium with his 3-point shooting where maybe the difficulty comes down, but the average comes back up to where you would expect to see Siakam, about that 35-36 range. OG as a kind of standstill guy is unbelievable. He's like 40% for his career as a catch and shoot guy. So I think you could kind of run sort of like a spread looking team with that small ball lineup and have just this hellacious defense where you've got that switchable 3-4-5. Who's the center? I don't really know on defense, but they all, guard off whoever they want to. Gary Trent Jr. has been killer on the defensive end so far this season. I believe he leads the league in deflections. He's right up there in steals. And then we know what Fred VanVleet is at the point of attack. That lineup, I think you can make it work. And I think you have to have those 3 guys, OG, Siakam, Barnes, playing together as much as possible because they're 3 of your 4 best players at this point. You got to have them out there as much as you can. And, the trade-off here is that someone from the group of Precious Achiuwa, Chris Boucher, Kem Birch, Yuta Watanabe, maybe even 2 or 3 of those guys are going to get squeezed on minutes if you go with that small ball starting 5. But I just think that's your best 5 right now, and there's a lot to like about it. It's small ball without the sort of trouble that you come into when you're playing super small because you have 3 guys who are 6'8", 6'9", who are all good rebounders, who all are really good defenders and can guard up positions. I think that's the move for the Raptors here. Although I totally understand if the sort of complexities of figuring out the rest of the rotation make it so it's more of a closing lineup than it is a starting 5.
On to Anunoby. People who I interact with in the fantasy community are probably a little bit disappointed with OG this season. I'm trying to talk them off a ledge because they're being crazy. Because they're like, he's just not doing what he needs to do. He looks passive at times. And to me, that feels insane. So from a local perspective on OG, look, the shots haven't gone. He's had some horrendous shooting performances, but he's still averaging 18 points a game. He's still hitting 3 threes per game. He's at 38% from the field, which is obviously a terrible number, but it's not something we expect to stick. He's still hitting 36% from 3. So What's off with his game, and how easy is it to correct in terms of, like, he's hitting 40% of twos, and that's a ridiculously low number. So what is it that is just off with him at the moment in those shots? Is it just something that's easily correctable? Is it just a weird little streak?
I think it's just growing pains, right? This is a guy who's always been like a supremely low usage guy, right? Even last season, he was like a 19% usage guy. He's up to like 25, 26, 27% in some of these games. And it's just a lot to sort of handle, especially when Pascal Siakam is not there. And he really is the sort of apple of the defense's eye in a lot of cases. And he's getting a lot of guys sent his way. People are loading up. They're sending two towards him. And in fairness to him, his playmaking has been really nice so far. You know, I think the assist numbers are at like 3 a game right now, but he's had a couple of 5-assist games in the last couple here. He's really kind of mastering passing from the baseline and finding shooters. He's got this wraparound pass that he's kind of worked on where he sort of whips it around the big and finds a guy on the wing on the opposite side. You know, he's coming a long way when it comes to that. And it is just sort of, you know, the ecosystem he's playing within. You know, you mentioned the trouble with spacing when Pascal Siakam gets back. The spacing's terrible right now. They at times have like 2 shooters on the floor, and OG is often one of them with the ball in his hands. I think what's going to really help OG here is when Pascal Siakam comes back, OG doesn't have to be the on-ball guy every single time down. He doesn't have to be initiating a ton of possessions. It's going to be sort of a by-committee thing between OG, Siakam, and Fred VanVleet. And I really think when that happens, you're going to see OG really thrive, because where he's been at its best this season is when he's doing the sort of opportunistic thing where he's cutting and getting an easy bucket that way, where he's, you know, trailing and getting a wide open 3. You know, he can do some of the creation stuff. His spin move's coming a long way. He can bully guys in the post. That's all going to help him. But I think he's getting a lot more easy buckets when Siakam is back, and there's just that much more attention to be paid towards Siakam. Obviously, as Barnes becomes more of an offensive threat too, that could help things along here too. I just think it's been, you know, a lot of sort of trial by fire for OG in a role he's never even entertained, you know, taking up before. And it's happened to happen when Pascal Siakam is not there, and the roster is kind of limited in terms of the help it can provide OG when he's got the ball in his hands.
Well, it is really intriguing watching the Raptors this year, watching OG in this new role, watching the rookie phenomenon in Scottie Barnes. And of course, Sean, you're going to be watching all the Raptors games and telling us all about them over on the Locked On Raptors podcast. Thanks for coming here on Locked On NBA and chatting Toronto with us.
Anytime, man. I'm always happy to talk about the best player of all time.